All right, welcome back. It's Dr. Rob, and we're talking about biblical prophecy and how it all fits together. Last time we defined terms. This time, let's dive into it. And as we start, how are we going to consider prophecy overall? I'm going to propose that we consider prophecy as a giant jigsaw puzzle with a lot of puzzle pieces scattered throughout the Bible. And when we're putting together a picture puzzle, we need a guide. We need something, and that is the picture on the box. That's what we would look at. And then you try and find the edges or the significant picture as you go along. We know that prophecy is a puzzle, but what would be the picture on the box? I will propose that the book of Revelation is the picture on the box. And a lot of people who study prophecy cut up the book of Revelation into the little prophecies and then throw it in with all the rest and then try and fit them all together. I don't think that's the right way to go. And I say that because Revelation includes over 180 references to various prophecies in the Old and New Testament. So essentially, if you cut up Revelation like that, you're taking the same prophecies and throwing them in the box. So as long as Revelation is already referencing other prophecies, let's use Revelation as the picture and guide our prophecy pieces into the book of Revelation. At the same time, and I like this illustration of the jigsaw puzzle because we need to know there's at least one huge piece missing: the time and the date of Jesus' return. Jesus plainly says no one knows the day or time when he will return. Only the Father in heaven knows that. So any kind of date setting or calculations or formulas or whatever, they're just not going to work. Only God knows. And if we can accept that and say, all right, well, we will put together the puzzle as best as we can, then we at least come up with some kind of picture. And again, we're talking about the future that hasn't happened yet, so I don't want to be dogmatic. So as I go through, I'm going to say, does this sound reasonable given what the scriptures say? Does this look like where this puzzle piece fits? And I originally did this study in 2009. I've changed my mind and looked at things afresh since then. So as we go along, I may say, well, it could be this, it might be that. Here's what I think. And that's where it's going to have to stop. Until Jesus comes back, we're not going to know. But if we're okay with that, let's continue looking at the prophecy puzzle. I want to look at some of the pieces. And there is one major piece in the book of Daniel that we have to deal with. Daniel is one of the premier pieces of apocalyptic literature in the Old Testament. And we have to remember that Daniel was a true prophet of God. There's a lot of discussion about who authored Daniel and when was the date. But when you get down to it, Daniel's visions are still true and they fit. And the visions I want to talk about are parallel visions in Daniel chapter 2 with the big image that Nebuchadnezzar saw, and Daniel chapter 7, which is Daniel's dream of the four animals. But both of those visions cover the course of history up to that point and a little beyond. And scholars don't debate this too much, that the first vision, the first part of the image and the first animal represents the empire of Babylon. And the second one represents the empire of Persia. And the third one, it represents the empire of Greece. Those we don't really have any problem with. The fourth kingdom in both of those visions is entirely different. It fits Rome, and so most scholars will say Rome, and I think it does fit Rome. But there are a few details that Rome does not quite fit into, and so it sure looks like it refers to a future kingdom of evil that is yet to come. We would call it the kingdom of the Antichrist. And so Daniel is a true prophet of God. One of the major prophecies is in Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 through 26. I'm going to read it. 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know and understand this: from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed the ruler comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and have nothing. It's like, whoa. This is known as the 70 weeks prophecy. And notice what the 70 weeks are supposed to do: put an end to sin, bring in everlasting righteousness, atone for wickedness, finish transgression, anoint the most holy. And the 70 weeks, again, scholars all across the board agree, it's understood as an exact mathematical date for the coming of the Messiah. And it's not 70 weeks. Sevens are referring to the sabbatical cycle, so it's 77 years. So that's 490 years. And it's divided into 3 sections: the 7 sevens, or 7 weeks, and then the 62 sevens, or 62 weeks, which leaves 1 week left of a 7-year period. He says it's decreed for your people, so this prophecy applies to Israel. He says the holy city, and so the focus is Jerusalem. For the first 69 weeks, that begins on the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. You've got a few choices here. Most scholars will agree on March 5th, 445 BC, which is the decree of Artaxerxes to Nehemiah. It's recorded in Nehemiah. And then the mathematical calculations begin. Have to remember that the Jews operate on a lunar calendar, and so a year is 173,880 days. And if you do the 69 times that number, you get to a date of Nisan 1033, which would be Palm Sunday in that year. Now, there are some difficulties with this. We're working from a Gregorian calendar and trying to read back into a Jewish calendar. It's a solar calendar trying to read back into a lunar calendar. In the transition, there were some weeks and years that were just plain lost. You have to, by the time you do it, you kind of have to say, is it in an exact date? Well, here's the deal. From 445 BC, when you count 483 consecutive years, you come into that period where Jesus was alive, 30 to 33 AD, and you come to a period in the time of the Passover, somewhere between March and April. It could be somewhere in 30, it could be somewhere in 33, and so pinpointing the date, can't do it exactly, but the prophecy is accurate enough to have confidence to fill in the gap. Whatever math we use, Daniel says that at the end of the 69th week, the anointed one will be cut off. So whatever calendars or schemes we use, we can confidently say that Jesus was crucified by the time the 483 years elapsed from whatever decree we use to rebuild Jerusalem or whatever calendar we use. And so Daniel's prophecy is right on target. That still leaves one 7-year period, the last week of Daniel's prophecy, yet to be fulfilled. Here's what he says about that. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to a sacrifice and offering. And on a wing of the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. So here we're looking at the Antichrist and his kingdom during this last week of Daniel's prophecy. This prophecy was partially fulfilled by Titus in Jerusalem in 70 AD when he tore down the temple and destroyed it completely. But it also must look to the future Antichrist, because he will be the one that puts in the abomination that causes desolation. Again, another near fulfillment for Daniel was when Antiochus Epiphanes offered a pig and erected a statue of Zeus in the temple. Daniel provides detailed information about the coming evil kingdom and the Antichrist, as well as the cutoff date for the Messiah. And so we understand that Daniel's prophecy is still in play, There's 1 week left, and it has not happened yet. All right, that's our lesson for today. More to come. I hope you'll stick with me. Have a great day.